Welcome to the Crowds Line College Football Show, featuring Coach Lou Holtz and Mark May. Every week, you can predict the winner, the score, and compete against the crowd for prizes. Sign up on the Crowds Line app or by going to thecrowdsline.com.
Welcome to the Crowds Line College Football Show with Lou Holtz and Mark May. I'm your moderator, Kevin Trimble, and it's my pleasure today to be with legendary Hall of Fame National Championship coach Lou Holtz and two-time Super Bowl champion, Outland Trophy winner, and College Football Hall of Famer Mark May. Gentlemen, it's great to see you, and we're already through week 6. We're halfway through the regular season. How was the weekend for you two gentlemen?
I thought it was great. I thought we saw some upsets this week that we weren't going to see. I thought we saw some teams get knocked off in their conference that we didn't think was going to happen. I thought it was a great weekend for college football.
I thought it was tremendous. But Alabama's in a class of their own. And I think the Heisman race is over already. Tua has just been unbelievable. He throws more touchdowns than he does incompletions. But the national championship is a long ways away. Notre Dame's still on track. Ohio State's on track. Georgia's on track. But Georgia, in a row, Mark, has to play LSU and then Kentucky, Florida, and Auburn, not necessarily in that order, but that's their next 4 games.
Wow.
Well, it was exciting for everybody, but I will tell you, Alabama, as Coach said, Tua probably going to win the Heisman. You could say that. I've read an article recently that went back to 2012 and the article was pretty much titled, "After Week 6, Give Geno Smith the Heisman Now." Most of the people in the studio here can't name who Geno Smith is or even where he played college football. So with that said, let's talk about Week 6. We had 2 big contests. We had the College Football Show contest and the Week 6 Rapid 5 contest. In the College Football Show contest, Oklahoma at Texas, Red River rivalry, that was a push. You gentlemen both picked Oklahoma. Boston College at number 23, NC State. Gentlemen both picked NC State, but you know what? Mark, you went on the spread. LSU went into the swamp. Neither one of you picked Florida because they won. That's a push as well. And Notre Dame at Virginia Tech, and we know who won that. The only one that used to coach at Notre Dame. So let's talk about Oklahoma, undefeated, number 6, going at the Red River rivalry in Dallas State Fair against an upstart, number 22, Tom Herman and his Texas Longhorns. See how this is going to go. Was just an oversight that Army took Oklahoma to overtime a couple weeks prior? Was it an oversight that that young Texas was starting to be some ranked teams? Well, I don't think it was an oversight because it was some real Texas football, because in a rivalry, records don't matter. Mark, your thoughts on that game?
Well, this was obviously an offensive shootout at 48-45, but I think when you look at Oklahoma, the problem isn't Kyler Murray, their offense. They can get it done scoring 45 points on the road. The problem is their defense. That's the reason why they fired their defensive coordinator, Mike Stoops, because he wasn't getting the job done. But in this game, if you look at the quarterback for Texas, it did a terrific job in this game, Ellinger. He had another huge game. He had a big game last year against Oklahoma and another big game this year with 5 total touchdowns, 3 in the air, 2 on the ground. Coach, he did a terrific job in this football game, running it, throwing it. But I was most impressed when he ran the football. It wasn't his total yards and 72 yards on the ground. It's like when they had to have it on 3rd and short, when they had to have it on 4th and short, he was able to move the chains. Sam Ellinger did a heck of a job in this football game for the Texas Longhorns.
He did a great job, Mark, and he didn't slide. I mean, he goes head first. He's a great competitor, loves the game of football. And Texas is getting better each and every week. They started out losing to Maryland, and then they only beat Tulsa, I think, by 28-21. However, I agree with you about Oklahoma's defense. In the last 2 years, Oklahoma's lost 4 games, and I believe the minimum amount of points they scored on offense in those 4 losses is 45 points. That's why he's replaced by Stoops. It's very unusual to replace a coach in the middle of the season. He's hired Ruffin McNeil. Now, Ruffin McNeil was the defense coordinator for Mike Leach. When Mike Leach got fired at Texas Tech, Ruffin McNeil coached in the bowl game, then went to East Carolina, took Lincoln Riley with him. Then when he got fired at East Carolina, he went to Virginia 1 year. The minute Lincoln Riley became head coach, he goes back and hires Ruffin McNeil. We'll have to see if that makes a difference with their defense. However, the yardage on both sides was very even, but Oklahoma had 3 turnovers, and you can't win when you turn the ball over that many times.
Ruffin McNeil won some games at East Carolina, if we remember, but you also got to think about what's going on in Texas right now. It used to be Matthew McConaughey was the only cool guy on the sidelines. I don't know if anybody can be cooler than Sam Ehlinger. And now you've got a freshman, Cameron Dicker. So you got a freshman, a sophomore, and then you had a freshman Holder. They're all on that sideline. Matthew McConaughey now is third wheel. Coach will tell Angie maybe he'll give a shout out to her. But we go to Boston College and NC State. Number 23, NC State, undefeated, waiting to play Clemson. Have they really played anybody? Because remember, the Marshall game was postponed. 28-23, Ryan Finley and the Wolfpack take care of business. Hey, we've got 2 undefeated teams left in the ACC. Mark, talk to us about this one.
Well, I talked about this last week on our show that A.J. Dillon might not play in this game because he got nicked up in the previous game. He didn't even make the trip in this game, and that kind of hurt Boston College. But the key for NC State, they took a 28-3 lead early in this football game. They were able to hang on in this football game, and I think Ryan Finley's one of the top quarterbacks in the country that nobody's talking about. He had another 300-yard passing game. I thought that was key in this game. Their defense held on in the end. Hey, if you look at NC State, that's one of those teams that nobody's really talking about that's still undefeated at this point in the season, Coach.
Well, if A.J. Dillon had played, he's one of the best running backs in the country. It certainly hurt Boston College. But the fact is, NC State had 533 yards. Boston College had 318. They outgained them by over 200 yards. However, NC State had 4 turnovers in the football game. I agree with you about the quarterback. They're a good football team. They haven't really been tested yet. We'll find out very, very soon when they play Clemson.
That's going to be next week, and we're going to talk about, or in 2 weeks, and that's going to be pretty much our game of the week. The game of the week this past week was LSU went into the swamp in Gainesville. Now, as we said, since 1973, every time that LSU played at Gainesville, Florida won. And that was every time they played at Gainesville on Saturday, October 6th. And it was twice. Well, guess what? Now the third time's the charm, because the Florida Gators have a defense. We talk about offense and Dan Mullen, but they have some defense. And more importantly, Joe Burrow threw the first interception of his career, and it was 6 points for the other team. Mark, big win there, because both of you all picked LSU.
Well, this is a game we thought would be a very low-scoring game, and it was 14-13 going into the fourth quarter until we had an offensive explosion in the fourth quarter with 19 total combined points. But I think for Dan Mullen, his defense did one heck of a job against this LSU offense. And for Joe Burrow, he threw his first interceptions of the year. You mentioned the pick 6. He also had another interception. Both of these were on the road. I think with Joe Burrow, he's the quarterback. He's got to manage the football game. He can't turn the ball over. The formula for LSU has been run the ball, stop the run, and no turnovers. That's the way they've been able to win this year. They go on the road and turn the ball over, and they weren't really that effective running the ball against this Florida defense.
No, not at all, Mark. And the amazing thing is, the last 4 times LSU has gone in to the swamp and ranked in the top 5. 4 straight times they've lost to Florida. So this is just something that's sort of crazy there in the swamp. But the fact is that if LSU cannot run the football, then they're forced to throw the football. And Burrows is very, very good, but I don't think their pass concept is that complicated, and he threw the out cut, which was intercepted. My feeling as a coach, let's throw the out and the up before they intercept the out. You cover the out and the up, then I know I can complete the out cut. Prime example, you risk 6 yards versus 6 points, and those are not good odds for LSU. But let's give Florida credit. It's going to set up a great showdown with them in Georgia in a week.
Well, that will be another sparring partner bowl. We'll get into that later. But, Coach, as you said, cover the up, cover the out. Well, down in Blacksburg, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame. I think Virginia Tech needs to work on just covering the guy who's running the ball. Dexter Williams took it to the house quite often, and they didn't really need Ian Book to be magic because Notre Dame had some defense. They made plays, they scored, and they ran the ball. So I think Enter Sandman was drowned out very quickly by an Irish jig in Blacksburg. Notre Dame wins big, and Coach, you won that pick straight up. Mark, talk to us about that, what you saw.
I think there are 2 keys in this football game that were really stood out for me. The first one is you can't bring a field goal to a touchdown fight. So Virginia Tech's kicking field goals, Notre Dame scoring touchdowns. The second thing is when you've got the ball inside the 2-yard line and you can't knock it in for a touchdown, they have to kick a field goal. From that point on, it was downhill for Virginia Tech. They needed to score touchdowns in this game, and Dexter Williams was phenomenal. The 97-yard touchdown run really broke Virginia Tech's back. I thought from that point on, the game was over, Coach.
I agree with you. I thought it was over before the kickoff. The amazing thing, though, Virginia outgained Notre Dame by about 5 yards. It was very, very equal. But as you said, the thing about Notre Dame, Dexter Williams rushed for 175 yards on 17 carries, average over 10 yards a carry. Miles Boykin caught passes for over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Williams as a running back scored 3 touchdowns. Then you have a very, very good quarterback, and your defense is playing pretty good. 9 starters coming back. They're not dominating the game as per se. Teams are having success moving the football, but their red zone defense, Mark, on the goal line, they're playing exceptionally well. I always felt when you're on the goal line, you better play like you're on the edge of a cliff. You can't take one step back. Let's give Notre Dame an awful lot of credit. However, Virginia Tech did outgain them, which gives them some hope for the future.
Notre Dame's got a clear road ahead. They have some visitors coming that may try to get in their way, but that's our college football show contest. We have a clear road ahead to our Week 6 Rapid 5 contest. And we had 5 games. Number 13, Kentucky at Texas A&M, Florida State at number 17, Miami, Maryland at number 15, Michigan, Indiana at number 3, Ohio State, and Navy went out to Air Force. Here's what's exciting. The home field teams won every game. So every time someone came to a visit, you know what? People weren't too hospitable. And that started down in College Station, Texas. And that was close. 20-14 in overtime. Kentucky had chances, plenty of chances. But Jimbo Fisher, Texas A&M, said, you know what? We're not as bad as people think. Mark, talk to us.
Well, it was the Texas A&M defense that got it done. They held Kentucky to a total of 153 yards, 70 on the ground. Benny Snell in this football game didn't run the ball effectively. He only had 60 yards. I thought that was the key to the game. The other thing, if you look at this football game and break it down, Travion Williams, the running back, had over 210 all-purpose yards in this game. That was the key for Texas A&M, for them to move the ball, make plays. They ran it on the ground. They got the job done. I thought that was key in this game. When you've got a quarterback that can make plays in mind, I think that was the key for Texas A&M offensively. But I still think, if you look at Kentucky, their recipe is like another recipe like LSU. Run the ball, stop the run. They did in this game stop the run fairly decently, but they weren't effective running the ball. And you can't be a one-dimensional offense in any game. You've got to be able to throw the ball vertically, and Kentucky just hasn't proven that this season.
As we said last week, I love Mike Elko, the defense coordinator for Texas A&M. It was at Wake Forest, then he was hired by Brian Keller at Notre Dame. Then he went for over $2 million a year, and he is earning every cent of it. I mean, they just dominated Kentucky's offense. It was a great performance, and I think at Texas A&M got beat by 20-some points by Alabama, but they're coming along. Jumbo Fisher can be very, very proud of his success that they're having.
That's why coaches get paid so much, so we can second guess them. 3rd and 2 in 3rd and 2. Overtime.
Just a minute. I made $95,000 at Notre Dame, so don't give me that how much coaches make. But fortunately, Notre Dame has an open bye this week.
Maybe we talk about Kentucky, Texas A&M, and in this new environment of coaches getting paid too much. How about that, Coach? I think you'll agree with that, because when it's 3rd and 2 in overtime and you have Benny Snell on your team, just give him the ball. Just give him the ball. Don't get cute. But that's what Kentucky next week has a bye, and Texas A&M goes South Carolina. Our second game, Florida State at number 17, Miami. Some people thought this was going to be a blowout. We said, hey, you know what? Florida State the week prior, they got some confidence by beating Louisville, coming back. They go down to the Hard Rock Stadium, and they're up 27-7 in the 3rd quarter. But then that turnover chain came out, and they won 28-7. And Mark, you won this in a push. Mark, talk to us about what went down in Miami.
The wheels just came off for this offense of Florida State and the defense. I think when you look at this football team, they just can't get it together. Willie Taggart has to look in the mirror and decide what they have to do with this football team. For this team to get it going, they're going to have to make some changes down at Florida State. But you've got to take your hat off to Mark Richt and the Miami Hurricanes, being down 27-7 in this football game, fighting back in the second half. N'Kosi Perry, the quarterback, throwing 4 touchdown passes in this game. The grit of the defense. I thought Miami really showed what kind of character they had in this football game, Coach. To be down like that in the second half, to come roaring back late in the football game, scored 2 touchdowns in the blink of an eye. I thought when you look at their offense and their defense, they finally put it together. Hey, Miami's got it rolling right now. You've got to look at this team and say they're going to be contenders in the ACC.
I definitely believe that. I think their defense played exceptionally well. Manny Fernandez, their defense coordinator, really has them flying around the ball, creating turnovers, etc. But the fact is that Clemson's offensive line, Mark, is probably as bad as there is any in college football. I give Willie Taggart an awful lot of credit. Earlier in the year, Florida State looked very poor on defense. They looked excellent on defense against a very good Miami team. Yeah, Perry threw for 4 touchdowns, but he completed less than 33% of his passes for the afternoon. So at Florida State, they have a great running back in Cam Akers. They got a good quarterback in Frank Hoyt. But their offensive line doesn't give them protection. They don't give them any running room. And if you can't play enough offensive line, you might as well tell them to warm the bus up at halftime. We're going home.
We're going to hear more about the Hurricanes and the Seminoles later in the season. Maryland goes into number 15 Michigan. You know what? This one pretty much played out exactly as we thought. Coach, you won on a spread, and it was a 21-point victory for the Wolverines, who are getting ready for a big game coming this week. I don't think there were any surprises. We're just going to take Maryland for the rest of the year. And is Michigan kind of going to get ready for this next game, Mark? What do you think?
Well, when you look at this game, if you look at Maryland did have the lead in this game early. They had a long kickoff return for a touchdown. They had a 7-3 lead. But Michigan just out-physical them at the point of attack. They were bigger. They were more physical. They got the job done. They had 465 yards total offense to 203. And it was just a physical mugging in this football game. Shea Patterson had 3 touchdown passes in this game. But it was up front that got it done. They were bigger. They were more physical at the point of attack. They won the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. That's why Michigan beat up on Maryland.
I really get upset when I hear different people for the past couple of weeks saying, well, Jim Harbaugh can't coach. He can coach. He won at Stanford, he won at San Diego, and he will win big time at Michigan. This is a very, very good Michigan football team. When you look at defense, they're almost number 1 in every defensive statistic. Brown, their defensive coordinator, has done a tremendous job. They were great last year on defense. They have 9 starters coming back this year. They're even better this year. Devin Bush, their linebacker, is absolutely unbelievable. Nobody can block him. And then the way Shea Patterson's playing, their offensive line's starting to come along. They're starting to run the ball a little bit. They're getting a little bit more physical. They are going to be a team to reckon, and I would not be surprised if Michigan goes into Ohio State with only 1 loss.
Michigan going to Ohio State with 1 loss. Well, Ohio State, we weren't close to a loss this week, but I think that Indiana, in our 4th game, Indiana at number 3 Ohio State, I think Indiana stayed around a little bit longer than people thought about, or at least thought they would. Now, we said it was coming off a big win against Penn State, so got a little solid advice in the locker room, I'm sure, at halftime, did the Buckeyes. But, 49-26, I thought a lot of people thought it would be a lot more. What's your thoughts right now? Buckeyes pretty much exactly where you thought they'd be, Mark?
Yeah, they're exactly where I thought they would be at this point in time. If you look at Indiana, though, Indiana had 28-20 at halftime. They were right in this football game. And not only that, they had to rely on their quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, again in the second half to have a big second half. He did throw 2 interceptions in this game, but he also had 6 touchdown passes. I thought that was key for the Buckeyes. And when you look at the Buckeyes, they just have more talent than Indiana. You thought they're going to steamroll over this football team. I definitely did. I knew they'd take over in the second half and run away with it because they usually do. And I think one thing about Ohio State that I still continue to worry about, it's their defense. 1, their run defense. 2, their scoring defense. They're giving up a lot of yards on the ground, Coach, and they're giving up a lot of points, and that's not very good when you're going to go right down to the end in the Big Ten because you're going to be playing against some tough teams the rest of the way, and you can't have mistakes on defense that they've had this year so far.
I'm sure that Urban Meyer doesn't sleep very well because of the defense. There's certain principles about defense that as a head football coach you want to know. Defensive coaches too many times try to find a 12th man. You can't find it. You got to learn to shed blocks. You got to cross faces. You got to be able to tackle, etc. Let's remember that Ohio State only had 3 starters coming back on defense, and then they lost Joey Bosa, the best pass rusher in the entire college football scene. When he'll be back, we don't know. But I agree with you. They're not playing particularly well on defense, and they're playing an awful lot of man-free defense. And man-free defense is okay as long as you get some pressure from a 4 or 5 man rush. They aren't be able to do that on a consistent basis. So I think Urban Meyer's a great football coach. So is Nick Sirianni, the great defensive coordinator who won successfully at Rutgers. I'm sure they will get it straight, and they better get it straight soon.
We'll get it straight as we get closer to the Golden Gophers coming to the Horseshoe next. And Indiana's going to go out there will host the Hawkeyes of Iowa. Our last game, 2 predictions. And, Coach, you picked Navy. Mark, you picked Air Force with Colonel Gibson Mincer up there at Bowling Air Force Base. But you know what? I think her flag football team, I know they won that game, but the game at Colorado State, that probably wasn't much better. Navy went out there, bad weather, and got stomped 35-7. Mark, you saw this. Talk. What do you think?
Head coach Ken Niumatalolo said we got our butts kicked, and they did in this game. DJ Hammond, the quarterback of Air Force, didn't even know he was going to start this football game until the morning walkthrough, coach. And he goes out and runs for 3 touchdowns, throws for another touchdown, 4 touchdowns in this game for DJ Hammond. And not only that, if you look at the defense of Air Force, that was key in this game. They held Navy to just 124 rushing yards. If Navy can't run the football, they can't win football games because they are a one-dimensional offense, coach.
Oh, I agree with you. None of that. Air Force threw for 145 yards in the air, and that never happens for the Air Force particularly. But I think that this is not the Navy-type football team the last 2 years that we're used to seeing at Navy. They aren't explosive. The fullback's not very, very productive. At any time you gain under 200 yards in that offense, you're going to have serious trouble. You look at the academy. When they play Notre Dame, they play the big-time schools, they have to be able to control the football. They got to keep the other team's offense on the sideline because they don't have the athleticism to play great defense, and they can't do that. They can't even do that against Air Force. And if Russians watch that game, watch out, they're going to attack us.
Well, good luck to the cadets of the Air Force Academy because they win one more game against Army and they've got that Commander-in-Chief's trophy. But also, congratulations to the Bowling Air Force flag football team over Anacostia, led by one Mark May's niece. Well, gentlemen, that wraps up our Week 6 predictions. And go back to this national championship prediction that we started in Week 1. Coach Holtz, you had Georgia, Clemson, Notre Dame, and then Ohio State. Mark, you have Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, and then Washington. So, Coach, I think you put it out on Twitter the other day. I think you're set. You just like to add a 15. What do you think?
I would like to add UCF because I tell you, I think they're a good football team. You know, they beat Pitt 42-14. Now, I understand that's not a great win, but they are dominant in the way they do things. And Milton's having a tremendous year. Alabama, though, I don't have them on because I think that Georgia has a chance to beat them. But boy, the longer we go, I got to say this, it's very, very hard to go against Alabama the way Tua's playing. He throws more touchdowns. He was 13 out of 16 with 4 touchdown passes, 335 yards, I think it was, 3 incompletions, 4 touchdowns, and Alabama's receivers are all sophomores. They can run the football. Defensively, they're not playing as well, but I'm not worried about Alabama defense when they get to the big time. They're going to be fine. Other than A&M, where they only won the game by 20-some points. Alabama has not played a game where they won by less than, 40? I mean, they have dominated. I just think that they're in a class by themselves. However, I still like Georgia. I think Georgia's a great football team. However, LSU, Florida, Kentucky, and Auburn in a row, that's very difficult. Where you look at Alabama and their big game, only hard game on the schedule remaining would be Auburn with a couple losses.
I look at it, I'm keeping my teams, Kevin. I'm keeping my teams. I'm hanging in there. We're only at the halfway point. A lot of things can happen. A lot of things can happen. I've got Alabama. The bottom line is you have to pick the national champion. I've got Alabama and you don't. Hey, it's Alabama here and everybody else down here. So it's Alabama's party. They're throwing the party.
How could you not put Notre Dame in there? You look at their schedule. They're open this week, then they're open the following week, and then they have Navy, they have Northwestern, they have Syracuse, and they have Southern Cal. They're locked to come in there, and boy, they're a good football team. Brian Kelly's doing a tremendous job. Great motivation on that team, Mark. It just shows your bias.
Not biased at all. You tend to forget history.
Notre Dame, either one. One time I want to hear you say something positive about them.
You tend to forget history. I can remember a year when everything went Notre Dame's way. Teams in front of them had a bunch of injuries. They didn't play as well as they should have. Notre Dame ended up playing teams that we thought were going to be ranked. At the end of the season, they weren't. That was 2012, and they played Alabama in the national championship game. It was over by the first quarter.
But wait, Mark. They were still laughing because you were in that leprechaun outfit, and they were laughing so hard they couldn't play. Let's move on.
Well, gentlemen, let's save all this up because we got a big pick coming up. And now we're going to take a look at our Week 7 college football show contest. We have 4 big games. We have Georgia at LSU, Oregon at Washington, and as we know, we've got Wisconsin going to Michigan, and then the Pittsburgh Panthers are headed to South Bend to play Notre Dame. But first, let's look at number 2 Georgia, undefeated at number 13 LSU, who's 5-1 because they were undefeated up until Saturday when they lost one at the Swamp in Florida. This is the 31st meeting of these two, believe it or not. LSU 16-13-1, going back to 1928. What's really interesting about this game is it's a 2:30 local kickoff, like the nighttime Death Valley, Baton Rouge, crazy loud, everybody's All-American screaming. So, this may not be upset time, but you've got a wounded Bengal Tiger right there. Mark, what do you think about this game?
It doesn't matter when the kickoff is at Tiger Stadium. They just start the tailgating earlier down in Baton Rouge. And here's the key to this football game. It's going to be Joe Burrow, the quarterback. He has not turned the ball over at home. He only turned the ball over on the road at Florida last week. They've got the confinements at home. They're more comfortable at home. They're a different football team at home. As long as he doesn't turn the ball over, they have a great chance to win this football game. Nick Brissett still rushed for 95 yards against that tough Florida defense. They will be a much different football team at home. And remember, Georgia last year lost on the road at Auburn in the same type of environment. I've got LSU upsetting your Georgia Bulldogs, Coach, 24-21. They won't turn the ball over. They'll run the ball, and Joe Burrow will be a different quarterback in this game and will not turn it over, and they will win this football game.
The only people are going to be upset are the people follow your instructions and think LSU is going to win the football game. Georgia is a great football team, Mark. You look at Jake Fromm, the quarterback, he's absolutely outstanding. He completed probably 70% of his passes. But on offense, Georgia's awfully good. Only one time have they scored under 41 points this year, and with that game, they scored 38. Their defense is also very, very solid. I know it's down in Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is a very difficult place to play because you have to play LSU. But nevertheless, if I took a team like Georgia in there, I would find that's not as hard a place to play. Depends what type of team you take there. This is a very solid Georgia football team. I picked them to win, to be in the playoff before the season. I still think that they will be there. You look at them, offense, defense, kicking game. They protect the football. They're a solid football team without a real weakness.
Another game with conference implications is our second game. Number 17 Oregon is going at number 7 Washington, up facing the Huskies at their place. And if you think about this, Oregon is one fumble away from being in the driver's seat in the Pac-12, but right now this is a kind of do or die game, especially more than anything for Oregon. So Washington has that one loss to Auburn in week 1, but Justin Herbert, he's been lighting it up. But these Huskies, they can, I think, number 18th in pass defense. They can play the ball in the air. So we're going to see how this is going to go. Nighttime game. What do you think, Mark, up there in Seattle?
I think it's going to be tough for Oregon to be in this environment, one. And I think the other thing is when you look at Justin Herbert, this quarterback, big guy, 6'6", can move the ball, very effective throwing the ball. He's going to be one of the top picks in the NFL draft next year. But he's going to struggle against this Washington defense. And I've talked about this defense all year long. They have the best secondary in the Pac-12 last year, and they do this year again, and the best defense in the Pac-12 this year. But I think the key is going to come down to Browning, the quarterback. And I think when you look what Jake Browning's done throughout his career, he's got the most FBS starts of any quarterback in the FBS. He is seasoned. He has been in big games. He went on the road this year and played a close game against Auburn. He's been in the playoff games. This is a quarterback that knows how to play in big game environments, and particularly against Oregon. I've got Washington winning this game, a close one at home, Coach, 31-27.
Well, I do believe this, Mark. I think Jake Browning's had a tremendous career. As you mentioned, a 4-year starter. He's played a lot of big games. He played Southern Cal in the championship game for the Pac-12 last year. He played against Penn State in the Rose Bowl, and he lost both of them. He has not performed real well under the big lights. And you talk about that great defense from Washington. That team struggled against Arizona State. They also struggled against UCLA. They have 9 starters returned on defense at Washington. That's very, very good. But I think this is an exceptionally fine Oregon team. You mentioned about the quarterback, Justin Herbert. They're a very explosive offense football team. But I'll tell you why I think Oregon is going to upset them. 38-34 because of this. Jim Levitt's the defensive coordinator. He used to be the head coach at South Florida, put him really on the map, took him from Division I AA into the major college. Then he was defense coordinator at Colorado when they had great success. Then he went to Oregon, and one of the great things that the head coach at Oregon did, he managed to keep Jim Leavitt there, even though the other head coach went to Florida State. So I think Leavitt is a key. Look for Oregon to upset them 38-34.
Mark, you mentioned Jake Browning's performance in big games, and without a doubt, that is a big game. Tell you what else is a big game, our third one. Number 15, Wisconsin, is going to the Big House at number 12, Michigan. Two like-minded teams, tough, Midwestern, even though they're probably from all over the country, but it's that mojo that they have, but it's more of the blue-collar, work hard, run the ball. And you take Michigan right now. Michigan's number one in pretty much every defensive category. Wisconsin can run the ball, passing, not so much. Shea Patterson coming into his own. We're going to see how this goes. Mark, what do you think about action in the Big House as the Badgers go on to face those Wolverines?
Well, this is the battle of the thick ankles. Forget about Wisconsin's defense last week against Nebraska. Yeah, they gave him some big plays and a lot of yards, but Jim Leonard, their defensive coordinator, is one of the up-and-coming rising stars in college football. He'll have a head coaching job soon. But if you look at Michigan, they have not scored less than 42 points in the Big House this year. This is going to be a game where they will score less than 42 points because of Wisconsin's defense. Jonathan Taylor will keep their offense off the football field. And if you look at Michigan's defense, yeah, statistically, they're right up there at the top in every category. Don Brown, their defensive coordinator, has done a terrific job. But I think this game's going to come down Jonathan Taylor pounding the rock late in this football game, wearing them down. Their quarterback, Alex Hornibrook's going to make a play or two at the end. In the end of this football game, Wisconsin's going to upset Michigan in the Big House 30-24.
Once again, there's no way that's going to happen. This is a very solid Michigan defense team. As I mentioned, I think they have 9 starters back from last year. They were great last year. They're even better this year. This is a different football team than one we saw against Notre Dame in the opening ball game. That was the first game in Shea Patterson. He really didn't understand the system. He's getting better and better and better. I think Jim Harbaugh is an excellent coach. I think they're starting to play physical football on offense. I have great respect for Wisconsin. I think the running back up there is outstanding, Taylor. But Hornibrook, he makes things happen at quarterback. But against Michigan, I don't believe there's any way possible. And sometimes, Mark, last year, Michigan State had everything going for it. Everything was coming together. You have seasons like that. Well, last year, Wisconsin had everybody together. I love their coaching staff. I love where they're all. Barry Alvarez says he's one of the best defense coordinators he's had, and that included Rwanda, who is a defense coordinator at LSU, went there from Wisconsin. But despite that, I look for Michigan to beat them 27-21. I know I had Wisconsin as a Final Four earlier in the year, but that was. But one thing I will do, I will acknowledge that was a mistake. You're going to have to acknowledge you made a mistake by picking against Michigan this week.
Well, I think the ticket to get in the Big House is going to be toughness, so we're going to see that, especially with that Michigan defense against Jonathan Taylor running the ball. Our last game in our college football show contest it's got a lot of history to it. It's got a lot of family blood here to it, because the Pittsburgh Panthers are going into South Bend. They're going to play the number 5 Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, who are coming off, they're 6-0. They are rolling. The Irish jig is playing wherever they lead, and this is the 70th meeting going back to 1902. Notre Dame leads 47-21, and there's one tie. But is this we're thinking about our paved Yellow Brick Road to the national championship playoff for Notre Dame, or is maybe a trap game, or is this a leave no doubt game? Maybe this week of practice is a whole lot harder than other weeks were in the rest of the season. Mark, talk to us about your alma mater going into Notre Dame.
You know what? We're going to take all the stats and all the notes and we're going to throw them out the window. I want to talk to the Pittsburgh Panther football team. These young Panthers. Here's the key to this. They talk about waking up the echoes at Notre Dame. Forget about waking up the echoes. How about waking up our echoes? How about our history at Pittsburgh? How about Jock Sutherland, Pop Warner, Johnny Majors, Jackie Sherrill? That's right, historic coaches right there. Not only that, how about historic football players that have played in the Panther uniform? Dan Marino, Tony Dorsett, Shady McCoy, Chris Martin, all those players, Hugh Green, that have had the history of the University of Pittsburgh. How about this? You know how to upset football teams because you've done it the last 3 years. 3 years ago, you upset Penn State. 2 years ago, you upset Clemson. Last year, you upset Miami. You've got it in your genes and DNA to rise up and beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame and shock the world. That's what you're going to do. These are Pitt championship rings. You know the Panther pride. Remember, in the 300, when they said King Laurinaitis, what did he tell his troops? Give them nothing, but take from them everything. You can take from them a chance to play in the playoffs. You can take from them a chance to go to a national championship game. You can take from them their pride. That's what you Panthers have to do in South Bend this weekend. The Pitt Panthers win this game 39-37 over the Fighting Irish. And Coach Holtz, if you remember, a few years ago when the Panthers played Notre Dame, and we had our bet. You lost and had to give me this signed hat says, Mark May, you won, Lou Holtz. Let's not forget, it's Panther pride.
Mark, that was priceless. I just hope a psychiatrist wasn't watching anything going to be on your doorstep with chaps around you. I mean, you sound like a comedian out of work, Mark. Notre Dame, this is what I call roster games. A roster game means everybody on our roster is going to play because Notre Dame will dominate the game. You know, Pitt did have 3 great wins. You mentioned they have beaten Clemson, they have beaten Penn State, they have beaten Miami in the last 2 years. Both of them are upsets. But Notre Dame will not be upset. Notre Dame is on the roll. They know what they're going. Ever since they went with Ian Book at quarterback, it's a different football team. You have Williams, you have great offensive line. Williams are running back. You have the outstanding wide receiver. They are no secret that the fact they also play great on defense. And don't start talking to me about the great coaches that there. How about Rockney? How about Lee? How about Parsegian? How about Dan Devine? I mean, you don't want to go there, Mark. But that.
You know what? Guess what? The Panthers, not 2, not 3, not 5, but 9 national championships.
That was before 30s. That's when you know we're good. We're back in the 30s. I know when Jock Sutherland, once you went to this other thing, you haven't been that good. Hey, Mark, I'll tell you right now. Final. Notre Dame 56, Pittsburgh 14, and the biggest thing that I would warn Brian Kelly about, make sure your first team showers after the game because they won't even break a sweat.
Oh, double it?
Oh, absolutely. Have triple it.
You're on. I don't even want any points.
Oh, gee. Oh, I'll
Gentlemen,
tell you
we're
right
getting
now.
serious here on. We're getting serious on the Crowd's Eye College Football Show with Lou Holtz and Mark May, and I think they're going to break down. We may have to do a cage match here before long. I'm excited to hear about this game. And now for our Week 7 Rapid 5 picks. 5 pretty good games, and I'd say really good games. Missouri at number 1 Alabama. Number 19 and undefeated Colorado going out to USC, a big Pac-12 match. And number 10 UCF at Memphis. See how Beale Street handles the crowd from Disney. Baylor at Texas. And oh, by the way, that's number 9 Texas. Michigan State at number 8, Penn State, and this is for the Land Grant Trophy. We'll get more into that in a second. But let's talk about Missouri at number 1, Alabama. Now, Missouri's 3-2, Alabama's 6-0, and those 2 losses, Georgia have 14 points, and then they lost in a tsunami to South Carolina this past weekend. But if you really look at any SEC team playing Alabama, other than Georgia right now, I want to kind of rename their schools. So, for example, it would be Mel Turnbow U. That's probably good for LSU. Jimmy Ellis U could be another one. Cody Jones U. Jack Bodell, but with a British accent U. Michael Dokes, Tony Tubbs, those are kind of the... And who I'm talking about, those are all former sparring partners of Muhammad Ali, okay? They were going to be a champion, but, you know, hey, we'll get them in the ring. Well, so far, we saw Texas A&M, they kind of got almost through the first round with Alabama. But is Missouri? I don't know. Drew Lock, great quarterback, great future, great potential. He's playing Alabama. So Barry Odom's Tigers, we'll see how that's going to go. Mark, what do you think about these sparring partners? In this case, it's going to be Missouri playing at Alabama.
Missouri's got no chance. Tua Tagovailoa has been terrific this year. The only question about him is how long will he play? Because this season he hasn't really played in the second half because he's been so dynamic in the first half. Whether Alabama's running the football, throwing the football, special teams, they are a cut above everybody else. Drew Lock's going to have a tough game against the the defense for Alabama. But I think when you look at Alabama's offense, you talk about an offense hitting on all cylinder. It doesn't matter even if Jalen Hurts, when he goes in there, they move the ball up and down the field with the second unit. No one's been able to slow down or stop this Alabama football team. Their offense has been spectacular all season long. They don't miss a beat. Yes, Missouri will get some by-the-way points at the end, but I got Alabama cruising 52-17.
Well, we're very, very close on that, Mark. Alabama is averaging over 58 points a football game. They're absolutely outstanding. As I said, the quarterback, I've never seen anybody perform as well as Tagovailoa. I have trouble pronouncing names, so I'm just going to call him Tua. I've never seen any quarterback perform as well as he has on a consistent basis. You look at what Haskins has done in Ohio State this year, that would be front page news if it wasn't for Tua. He is absolutely unbelievable. And those sophomore receivers are running back. Defensively, Alabama's not playing as well. I know Nick Saban's upset because they didn't play well last week. Gave up too many points. You can bet your bottom dollar Alabama's really going to be ready to play. I look for Alabama to win 57-17. And Missouri has 9 starters back on offense. Drew Lock's an outstanding quarterback, but he's no Tua.
Well, this is the 6th meeting, and Alabama leads 3-2. Last time these two teams played was in the 2014 SEC Championship, and obviously Alabama won. And as Coach Saban has been asking Coach, hey, start pointing out some negative things. Well, Coach, I saw 2 players on the sideline in this week's game while I was watching on TV. Their jerseys were untucked. I'm not going to give you their numbers. You can find that out yourself. But the number to talk about perfect, though, is number 19, undefeated Colorado, is playing at USC. So is this Colorado's first real game we're going to see? Well, last week we said, maybe we'll see how it goes until they play, Herm Edwards, Arizona State. Well, they took care of business there. But Mike McIntyre, he can coach some football. Don't forget, Colorado has been down for years and then got up, had one bad year. Now they're slowly coming back, but they're undefeated at USC. Different environment, as you know, than Boulder out there in LA. But the 13th meeting, and it's the first since the first one was in 1927. And this may not be surprising to you, but USC leads the series 12-0. Colorado's never beaten USC. Is it going to happen this weekend, Mark?
No, it's not going to happen. Even though Steven Montez, their quarterback, is a heck of a quarterback, a great competitor, a great leader for Colorado. JT Daniels is a young player for USC. You look at him at the quarterback position. He's made some strides and some growth, but they've gone through their growing pains because they're playing a lot of young players. They've had a lot of injuries over the past few weeks, had a lot of penalties so far this season, but they had the bye week to clean a lot of that up. They're getting healthier now. They're playing at home. And look at this football team, Coach, on both sides of the ball. They have better athletes than Colorado. USC gets it done 31-23.
They do have better athletes in Colorado, but that doesn't necessarily dictate you're going to win the football game. The only thing that scares me about Colorado, they're 5-0. The only real good, solid football team they beat is Arizona State, and we don't know how good Arizona State is. Other than that, their schedule has been very, very weak. However, I do love their quarterback, Montez. I do think they're on the roll. I do not think that this is a very, very good Southern Cal football team. I think Southern Cal has some different problems in different areas. I look for Colorado to win this football game 31-27. I know they've never beaten them before, but I think this will be the year.
Could be the year, but could also be the year that the UCF winning streak may come to an end. I don't know, because our third game has number 10 UCF going down to Memphis. Now, so what do you have right there? You have a contrast of two cultures. You've got Disney, you've got, it's a wonderful life, it's great, happy. And then you've got Elvis, you've got Beale Street, you've got B.B. King and the Memphis Blues. We'll see how that's going to go. But you know what? This is really going to be about high-flying football. These two teams played twice last year. First time was a 27-point win by UCF. Second time was a 1-touchdown win in the AAC championship game. Memphis has played UCF in the last 2 years closer than any other team. Memphis has dropped 2, the close one to Navy, and obviously then to Tulane. UCF is on a roll. Mark, is that roll going to continue down there in Memphis?
I think it is. I think if you look at Memphis, they scored 55 points against UConn, but everybody scores 55 points against UConn, so that's not something to pat yourself on the back. But this game's going to be a high-scoring affair. Mackenzie Milton, their quarterback's been terrific this year, 15 touchdown passes, just 4 interceptions. The way that they've got confidence with this football team, they want to run the table because they want to show everybody last year wasn't a fluke. I still have UCF winning this game at Memphis 42-35.
Oh, I think that it's going to be much more decisive than that, the USCF. Memphis has, I think it's 8 starters coming back on defense, and they've played 2 real good football teams, 2. And Navy, which you can't say is a great team, and Tulane. Those are the 2 best teams that Memphis has played, and they're averaging 23 points a game on offense against those teams. I look for UCF. I've been on the UCF bandwagon, and I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you watch Mackenzie Milton, this young quarterback. He is outstanding. He can run, he can throw. They're unbelievable on third down mark. I think they can play with anybody. I've been saying they should be in the top 10 in the country, and I promise you, nobody with the exception of Alabama and Georgia would want to play this UCF football team. They're a better football team this year than they were last year, Mark, and I know Scott Frost did a great job. But I got to tell you, Heppel has come in and replaced him. I'll tell you why they're a better football team. They're playing excellent defense this year. Last year they didn't play good defense. They're very athletic, they're very motivated, and Milton is an incredible leader. 42-24, UCF over Memphis.
Well, we might have to have us an AAC special coming up because you've got UCF, USF, and Cincinnati are all undefeated in the AAC. But our 4th game, the Baylor Bears, Matt Rule, 4-2, are going into Austin to take on the number 9 Texas Longhorns, who are coming off one of the biggest wins that they've had down there in years. So, what's Matt Rule going to do? He's playing some great offense with his Baylor Bears. You still got to play defense against Texas. Now, you go bring Chip and Joanna up with you from Waco to do some demo day in Austin prior to, I don't know. Might need to. But Texas is on a roll right now. They're playing good offense, they're playing good defense, they're playing good special teams. That win, they might be a little too high. Does Baylor even have a chance? Mark, you've seen games like this. What do you think?
Yeah, they always have a chance, particularly after Texas coming off that big win against Oklahoma. It all depends how mature this Texas football team is. Yes, they're on a roll. After the loss against Maryland, they haven't lost a game since, and they've been winning very impressively. Now, the key is in this game, how do you handle success? I still have Texas, and Sam Ehlinger had 5 total touchdowns last week against Oklahoma, getting the job done in this game offensively and defensively, but Baylor will score. This game will be 38-29. Texas will find a way to win at the end of this game, but it's all going to come down to Tom Herman, how he coaches his team this week, because everybody in Texas and Austin is patting those guys on the back after their big win against Oklahoma.
I know that is a factor, but I'm not worried at all about it. Here's how I look at it. When you have a big win against Oklahoma, 1 or 2 things going to happen. Everybody's going to pat you on the back, and you're going to say how great that is. You're right. However, the other reaction your football team is going to have, hey, man, we're in this race. You know, we only have 1 loss. We got a good football team. We really can do something. Boy, they're going to be anxious to play next week. They are going to be looking back at last week. They're going to be looking to the future. They've gotten better each and every week. I look for Texas to come out and roll. I don't know if Texas will lose again unless possibly to West Virginia. I look for University of Texas to win the game 42-24. I look for a highly motivated football team from Texas that's going to perform exceptionally well, because I think they're going to look on the Oklahoma game as, hey, we're pretty good. Let's go prove it. I can hardly wait again to play.
Well, things are hot in the Lone Star State because this is the 108th meeting between these two teams, going back to 1901, and Texas has won 3 straight. But our next big game is for what's called the Land-Grant Trophy. There's a picture of it right there for our viewers to see, and that's a good-looking trophy. Yeah. So, Michigan State, 3-2, is at number 8 Penn State in Happy Valley. And 33rd meeting between these two teams. I mean, think about that. They have a trophy, but only 33rd meeting coming up. But it goes back to 1914. And here's something really interesting between these two in the history, is that Michigan State is 6-1-1 when they play Penn State not in the month of November. How about that? October 13th game. You heard it here first. So I'm saying there's a chance. But Michigan State, they're stopping people. They're stopping the run. The problem is they can't run themselves, they can't pass themselves, and they can't stop the pass. So, Mark, we know about Penn State. What do you think about this game? Is the Land-Grant Trophy going to be up for grabs, or is it just going to stay in the locker in Penn State?
It's going to stay in the locker room at Penn State with James Franklin and the Penn State Nittany Lions. Michigan State's been very disappointed. I thought they'd be a lot better this year with all the returning starters they had on both sides of the ball and on special teams this year. The loss at Arizona State, the loss at Northwestern. This is a team that, if you look at Mark D'Antonio, they're not playing Mark D'Antonio style football. If you look at Penn State, they're coming off a bye. They're going to be healthy. They're going to be motivated. They're not even calling for a wideout for this game because they don't respect Michigan State enough. Trace McSorley, the quarterback of Penn State, the last time we saw him, set a school record for total all-purpose yards, over 460 yards against Ohio State. So they're playing at home again. I think they're going to have a big football win here. It's going to be an easy win for Trace McSorley and the offense of Penn State. They win it 34-13.
Colonel, you come up with more statistics that mean absolutely nothing to me than anybody I've ever been around. But I want to tell you this, I appreciate the research you do, and that information is good if I have a crossword puzzle in hand. But I say this, Michigan State, I believe that's the same team Mark May picked them being in the Final Four before the season began, and probably good justification because
Wisconsin.
They have so many starters coming back, but there's just something wrong. I think the quarterback is playing very, very well for Michigan State, but they can't run the ball. They're like 109th in running the football. That's not the Michigan State type football team. And I think Michigan State will be looking forward to the Michigan game next week, because next week they've beaten Michigan like 5 years in a row. I just look for Penn State. I love Trace McSorley. The Penn State has 10 starters back on offense, but they lost the one great guy. That was Barkley, the great running back, and they missed him. However, Trace McSorley has picked that up. So I look for Michigan State to lose to Penn State. Penn State 41, Michigan State 21.
It's hard to see Penn State losing any time pretty much for the rest of the year. James Franklin's got them rolling after getting kind of kicked like they did on the toe by Ohio State. So gentlemen, that is our college football show contest. We had our Rapid 5 contest, which then leads us to our winners from week 6. So Coach, Mark, you've got some names in front of you. And Coach, why don't we start with you, the college football show contest winners?
Well, number 3, Crystal Renee, $50 Amazon gift card. Number 2, Renee Meadows. She gets a $75 Amazon gift card. And of course, number 1 is Ashley Anderson, $100 Amazon gift card. And you don't have to buy me a gift. Congratulations.
My 3 winners are in 3rd place, Robin Anderson, a $50 Amazon gift card. In 2nd place, Ruben Quintero, a $75 Amazon gift card. And in 1st place, number 1, Steve Heath, a $100 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to all.
Well, we got our contest winners, but I want to talk about some more winners, our attaboys. We talk about an attaboy. It's a pat on the back. Who's our players that stuck out this week? Mark, who are your 2 attaboys?
I'm giving it to Dexter Williams of Notre Dame, Coach. 178 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. They're unbelievable. Nobody can beat Notre Dame. And you know what, Brian Kelly? You're an unbelievable football coach, and you got an unbelievable football team. Tell your team they're great, they're invincible, they can't lose until Saturday. Number 2, the Clemson offensive line. The reason why I give it to the Clemson offensive line is because Clemson rushed for 471 yards. They had 3 running backs, Travis Etienne, 167 yards and 3 touchdowns. Lynn J. Dixon, 163 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Adam Choice, 128 yards and 1 touchdown. 3 running backs, over 100 yards rushing.
Mark, I don't know how you do that without a teleprompter. We have no teleprompter. I also want to remind the people we have no script and we have no rehearsal, but that's obvious. But let me tell you, I'm happy to give an attaboy to Dwayne Haskins. He's the Ohio State quarterback. He has had an incredible year. Once again, he threw for 6 touchdowns. I know he did throw for 2 interceptions, but he has just done so many things. If 1 for 2 on the great quarterback in Alabama, I think he would be the leading candidate for the Heisman. He's done a tremendous job, and he's only a sophomore. My other one goes to Cameron Dicker, the Texas kicker, freshman, kicked a 40-yard field goal, and with 9 seconds to go, to lift Texas in that arch rival. This is after Oklahoma made a great comeback, 3 touchdowns by Murray in the 4th quarter. But not only was it a freshman kicker, it was a freshman snapper, a freshman holder, and my grandson used to do that at Texas a couple years ago. Congratulations, Cameron Dicker, on winning the attaboy. I give a lot of them to kickers, you know, but they make such a difference in the game, Mark. They would have been in overtime if it wasn't for him.
Mark, don't lie. You have to admit that right now, being a kicker in Baton Rouge and being a kicker in Austin, that's a pretty cool thing to be right now. Anyway, I digress. Gentlemen, what a great week. Thank you so much, but I want to know, what are you looking forward to next week? Mark, what are you looking forward to this weekend as you're hanging out in the Mark's Mansion out there in Arizona watching football? What are you thinking about?
I'm thinking about how the Pitt Panthers are going to knock off Notre Dame on Saturday. It's going to be a great day. I'm going to sit in front of my big 78-inch television and kick back, coach, and just watch the Panthers take down Notre Dame on Saturday.
I probably won't even watch a Pitt Notre Dame game because I hate to watch one team dominate the other one so bad. Pitt, that's the same team got beat by UCF 42-14. I can go on and on, Mark. You are not very good this year, but Notre Dame, I'll tell you what I'm looking for. There are really some great games that are really going to start determining what's going to happen in the conference. I think Georgia-LSU is a very, very big game. But there's also an awful lot of important games. You look in the Pac-12. I think we're going to find, is Oregon a pretender or a contender? Is Washington as good as Mark May thought prior to the start of the season? Is Southern Cal for real? I don't know. There's a lot of question marks that are going to be answered this week, but the one question mark that will not be answered is how good is Notre Dame. We know how bad Pitt is. And I didn't even have to give a pep talk to Notre Dame to play Pitt. Now, I might have to give them a pep talk in the playoff, but not for Pitt. Good Lord knows.
Well, I'm excited seeing some rapid text and tweets and from my two partners as they go back and forth during this game. But what I'm also looking forward to is keeping up on the crowdsign.com contest for this week, because you know what? Things are starting to grow. We've got more people in the prize pool right now, and most importantly for me, I'm really excited about talking to some of my friends on our crowdsign.com podcast. And we have the College Football Show podcast, and you can download it. You can listen to it on our website, but we're going to keep adding that this weekend. I'm pretty excited about that. Gentlemen, it's been a great week. I look forward to hearing from you this weekend. Most importantly, I look forward to more and more college football. The Crowdsign College Football Show would also like to send our prayers to the family of legendary football coach John Gallardi. John Gallardi, as you know, St. John's University of Minnesota, 489 wins as a head coach, the most of any division, and 4 national championships in Division III. And Coach, you knew Coach Gallardi well. What are your thoughts about Coach? What are you going to say to his team?
He's just a tremendous coach, but more than that, he's a tremendous person. He wrote a football book, and I was honored that he asked me to write the foreword in his book. But he was a unique coach. You know, he never scrimmaged much. He didn't wear pads during the week. It was unbelievable, his approach to the game of football. Now, when I was in high school, I never saw a dummy until I got into college. Our coach said we would play against dummies, we'll practice against it, but not to scrimmage your team and other things along that line. But he's just a great individual, and obviously with a great family. We will miss him.
Well, if you talk about safety and efficiency, Coach Gallardi was way ahead of his time. So with that, prayers to the family. Thank you, and God bless.
From the 30, Johnson out of the shotgun. Dropping back, pressure on, throwing over the middle. Has Williams, 10, 5, touchdown!